Hello, Porsche enthusiasts. It's great to see you guys again. I'm really excited today because behind me, we have what many people call the best 911 ever made, really, with the 964. And you know, the 964 has gotten so popular over the last few years. This is a very special one for me because this is my father's 964. And so I'm gonna take you guys around the car. I'm gonna show you what I love about this car. And then we're gonna interview my father and get his story on why he bought this car, what he likes about it, maybe what he doesn't like about it, some of the changes he's made. He's had to restore a few things, you know, refinish a few things. But the 964 for me, being someone who was born in the 80s, is a special car. This is the car that, you know, when I was 10 years old, was on the road. And so when I saw a brand new Porsche, I thought of a 964. Now seeing them become so popular and the prices just absolutely skyrocket, I see why. You know, for me, I really think the 964 is a really great balance. You may have seen my other video about my 997 that maybe I can put a link to somehow, about how it was the perfect balance of modern and classic, right? In a water-cooled system. I really think the 964 may be the perfect balance in an air-cooled system of modern and classic. You see my Targa right here in the background. It's a little more classic than I say modern as the 964. You know, the 964 that they say was 85% a new car. So on the outside, it looks similar to my 3.2, but 85% a new car, from the suspension to the wheels to the dash and the airbags and the lights and the bumpers and the motor, of course. So let's go through my dad's 1990 C2 in an amazing color and see what I like about it. Let's first talk about this color. This is a single year 1990 forest green metallic. You don't see a lot of these. It's a very coveted color. And because it was only made 1 year, 1990, it did come back for the 996 for 1 year, and then it came back in 2009 to 2010. Now you can get this in PTS. If you see a forest green metallic 964, you instantly know that it's a 1990. He also has the tan color interior. I'll ask him what the name of that color is. I don't know if it's cashmere or if it's glove or whatever it is. But I think it's a great balance of the green with the tan interior. It really is just the perfect balance. Walking around the car, you see the quintessential 911 look. You see the upright headlights that I just love, as opposed to my sugar scoop headlights that are on my 3.2 right here. I really love this H4, H5 look on the headlights. You see these 964 bumpers that people didn't like in period, but I think look really good and nice and clean now. You have the smile that many people have that are destroyed when they hit a driveway, but this has been repaired, and we'll go over that with my father. The D90 wheels, or Design 90s as they're called, these are from 89, 90, and 91. So this is what 95% of 964s came with. They also had another version that Nathan Mers talks about that you usually see on, I think it's the 968, but these are 16-inch. You know, in the last few years, the Design 90s got a lot of flack. Everybody likes the Cup 1s that came out in 92. But I tend to like these D90s, and I didn't at first, but after my dad's had this car for a little bit, I really like the period correctness of these. It is so quintessential 964, right? It may not be as racy as the Cup 1s, but I think they're really cool wheels. You know that this is an earlier 964, meaning 89 to 91, because of the flag mirrors. So the square mirrors, the more aerodynamic aero mirrors, came in 92. You do see those on the turbo, no matter what year they are, but you can tell that this is an early car because it has the same mirrors that I have in my car, which are the flag mirrors. Let's talk about the interior of the 964. Some differences that you see from the 3.2. Number one, we have an airbag. Now, of course, that's safe and that you know is great for your family, but from a design standpoint, I tend to not like the airbag steering wheels as much. I think they're a little bulky. I think they're a little bulbous. I do tend to like the 3.2 era steering wheels. Now, there were 964s that had the 3.2 steering wheels. Those are the 89.5s. What you also see in the 964 is this underdash. Now, why did they add the underdash? The underdash was added because where the glove compartment was where they ended up putting the passenger airbag. So they needed a place for the glove compartment. So they moved the glove compartment down so that we could keep this dash fairly similar, but also add the airbag. This is also, I think, one of the things about 964s that I tend not to like. I think that it is a little bulky compared to the 3.2 in the earlier cars. The simplicity of those earlier cars, I think, is what is so great about them. When you look at the door cards, really it's identical to the 3.2s. I love that. I think it's well designed. The stripes here, the unlock twisting function. You do still have the problem where this door pocket ends up breaking. My dad's was like that and it was fixed. I'll let him talk about that. But he has the standard leather, meaning that we don't have the belt line or the full leather. So I really love the design of the door cards on these. They're quintessential 911. When I'm sitting inside, it's the same feel as my 3.2 or earlier 911s. You got an amazing greenhouse. You've got the really small A-pillar. The big difference is this area between the two center seats because of the difference of the G50. So you don't have this passover that where you can just, you know, like tickle your passenger's foot with your foot, because you have this separation that changed from the G50. You have the different shift knob, and I like how a lot of people are doing the shift knobs. You have a leather option. You also have the more chunky rubber option that has the little square portion. I tend to like that. I think it looks really clean. There's people like Carbone that have options for that. You can control the wing in the back, the spoiler, with that. It's really nice. You know, these have electric locks, which tends to be kind of nice. You also have the tape holders, and I love this. I think this is so period correct. It just brings me back to the days when we had tapes and we put them into cars. It's just a fun time in the car world. This is a sunroof car. Most 964s that came to the US had sunroofs. If you find one that doesn't have a sunroof, more than likely it is from Europe or Japan, or maybe it is the very rare RS America where they didn't get the sunroof option. But even most RS Americas still got the sunroof. So very rare to see a 964 that didn't have a sunroof. I think this portion of the dash on a 964 is actually way better than the 3.2s. I like the simplicity of the air conditioning in the 964s. I think it makes much more sense. I know a lot of people that have had 3.2s for many years and still don't know what each knob does. You know, this has the Blaupunk Stuttgart that is such a classic look to these. You know, the Bremen makes one now that looks just like this, but when you flip this down, you actually have an aux port and I think USB. So really think that what they did with the dash in the 964 in this part of the dash, I prefer it to the 3.2. The back seat of the 964, very similar to the 3.2s. You maybe have a little less width here because of the change of the G50. That may just be how I feel right now. I don't know if that's actually true, so please tell me in the comments if it's not. But very clean, easy to fit my 5-year-old, difficult to fit almost anybody else. I heard someone say that the back seats of 911s are good for children and people that don't have any legs. And I think that's so true. However, in my 997, I can actually fit a booster seat and a rear facing child seat because I have 2 kids now. So it is a great family car, and that's how I talk my wife into keeping my 911s. I really like the rear end of the 964. I mean, who knows, maybe the Porsche designers took what roof was doing, and you know, removing the bumperettes and removing the impact bumpers and making this really look clean. But it looks like what they did with the Yellowbird. I think it's really clean, it's sleek, and I love the fact that you get a wing and you can also not have the wing, meaning you have it no matter what, but you can put it up or down. I think that's a really cool thing, because I have a 911, you know, I have a 997.2 that has the aero kit with a fixed wing, and I love it. But then I also have my 3.2 Targa that has no wing, and I love it. So I think 911s look great either way, but having the option of a spoiler, I think, is a really nice touch that they did. It is mechanical. I love the back end of the 964. So tell me what you've done to the car.
Okay, we've done a lot of things to the car. We've repainted these Porsche crests here. They were in pretty bad shape.
What did they look like before?
They were faded. A lot of the red and black was gone, and the gold was also faded.
Okay.
We did the brake rotors here.
So they were in there.
Yeah, inside. They were completely rusted. Cooper Boggs, he did most of the detailing and fine work on the car. We did all 4 of those. Some of the bolts here were in bad shape. We replaced those, these bolts.
Mm-hmm.
Some were sticking out, and some of them had locking caps on them.
Did any of these brake rotors get painted?
Yeah, the brake rotors got, they weren't painted, they were just redone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, cleaned up and redone.
Okay.
When I got the car, the inside was basically totally black. So we cleaned it, we cleaned the upholstery. This is Cooper Boggs when I say we. A lot of the screws here in this panel were all rusted. We replaced those. The center console was loose and real wobbly.
You mean this part?
No, this part.
Oh, this part here.
Yeah, that part
okay.
right there. It was real loose and just barely hanging on there. And we fixed that. The carpet was, like I said before, was basically totally black.
And these are hard to keep clean, and this looks really nice now.
And these seats were really black. The car had been sitting for between 3 and 4 years outside, covered. A lot in this area down in here in the door, there are a lot of spider webs and dead spiders and just all kinds of junky stuff.
Tell me about what's been done on the door pockets.
The door pockets. Well, this door pocket was okay. It was a driver's side door pocket that was just basically hanging.
So these tend to break right here.
Yeah.
And it
From
looks
people leaning on them.
Yeah, and my car's actually like that. I have to get it fixed, but it looks like he put a whole new piece here.
He did.
And then replace that, and this just looks really nice. You can tell how nice that looks.
This little panel right here was just kind of hanging. It was attached, but it was hanging. It looked like someone had tried to fix it. Cooper fixed that, so now it's all tight and the way it's supposed to be.
And this little rubber piece tends to fall off on a lot of these cars, so it's nice that it's been fixed.
Exactly. The number 2 on my Carrera, this top part was missing, which is a common thing I hear, because when people are cleaning their car, the rag kind of hooks on that little tube.
Oh yeah.
It breaks it off, so we put a new one on there.
That happens when I clean my car.
Yeah, the tailpipe here was kind of chromy, rusty looking. And Cooper asked me if I wanted it to be chrome or black. He said it came either way, and I decided to do the black, and I think the black looks really nice.
Spoiler here is nice because it doesn't have what Nathan Mers talks about, which is the breaking points. A lot of these have breaking points.
Right.
Now, there was something done under the spoiler, correct?
Right. Under the spoiler, there's a
curtain, I think they call it, right?
A curtain that was missing, so we actually replaced that, and that helps with keeping the cool air going down into the engine when you're driving.
And tell me about these rear lights, because these rear lights tend to get pink.
They do.
And you can see yours are
right,
pretty pink. You can also see from this view, there's, you know, it's not lining up correctly. They tend to come off.
Right.
What's your plan with that?
My plan is I'm going to replace those eventually.
Yeah, and I know that
they're really common to look like that.
Yeah.
But I do eventually want to replace those.
And I know that Porsche Classic now makes new ones that you can buy directly from Porsche Classic.
Right.
And get.
So that's something I want to do. This little air intake thing here was hit and it was damaged. We straightened that and painted that. We replaced the
windshield wipers.
This fender was completely repainted.
And who did that?
Jim East Auto Body in orange. Shane actually did it. Shane is the son who did it. And it did a great job on this. Apparently something had dropped on this, the previous owner told me, and it has cracks on there. Somehow this light was cracked or broken and they had tried to glue it with super glue. So Cooper fixed this also. It looks really good.
Tell me about the smile.
The smile was, it had a typical frown on it. And there's two little clips that hold that on there. It's just a matter of taking it off, adjusting the clips, getting it in the right position. There's also two little vents down here.
No, drains.
Drains here and here. Those were completely off. We fixed those.
And that drains the water from this front compartment.
From the front compartment. Yeah.
And so what do you plan on doing to the car? What do you still have on your list?
Eventually I want to replace those back lights. There might be some areas that need some touching up on the paint. But other than that, it's in pretty good shape. It's in really good shape. I've done a lot to it so far, but there's still more to be done. It's a continuing.
What's the color of the interior? Is it glove? Is it camel? Is it tan? Do you know what the Porsche color is?
I'm not sure what the official color is. Okay. I think it's glove.
Okay.
I think it's glove. And the seats are in really good shape. When I bought the car, we were having some electrical problems. We couldn't figure out what it was. The speedometer was working, but it was like jiggling like this. And it had been sent out twice, and it was still jiggling. We couldn't figure out what it was. The previous owner had put a Kenwood aftermarket radio in here. I didn't like it. When I bought the car, I got the original radio, and I said, I'm gonna put the original radio back in. So we put the original radio back in. It solved the speedometer problem. We were also having a problem with the battery draining. So we had an on-off switch under the hood. When we changed the radio, the speedometer problem was fixed and the battery drainage problem was fixed. Apparently it was the amplifier that was on the Kenwood radio that was continuing to draw the battery down. So I think this looks so much better than that Kenwood radio that the previous owner had in here, because he had a thing hanging here in the ashtray where you could hook up things to, and it just didn't look neat and clean. So the dash is in really good shape here. No cracks in the leather. Steering wheel's in really good shape. The roof, everything up here works. It looks brand new. It
does. The problem that my dad had with the aftermarket radio and causing the battery to drain, I've learned it's a common problem. In period, when they were 10 years old, people started updating these radios. They wanted to get CD players, and then later people wanted to get, something that hooked up to their iPod at the time before there was an iPhone or anything. And these amps were pulling too much power from these little batteries in our cars, and that's why you have so many of these 911s that say, oh yeah, my battery always drained, I have to have an on-off switch. So it's really nice to learn, and maybe for you, if you're watching this, that if you're having this problem, maybe just change the radio or take out that big amp or speakers, and it may fix that electrical problem that you're having.
When I did buy the car, right down here where you keep the cassettes, there were 4 cassettes in here. There's one in here right now.
I love it. What is it?
I don't even know. The Bodyguard.
The Bodyguard with Kevin Costner and
Whitney Houston.
Whitney Houston. That's great. I gotta keep those in. Those are period correct.
Yeah. I've heard there's different things you can put in here where you can put a drink cup or whatever, but when I'm driving the car, I'm gonna be concentrating on driving. I'm not gonna be having a coffee or a soda or something. So I'm not gonna be changing that. I wanna keep the car as original as possible and just have fun with it and drive it.
All right, so we are in the 1990 964. We're taking a drive. What's your first memory of Porsche?
My first memory of Porsche is when I was going to UCLA. I went to one of my friends' houses for a party, and the guys that came to the party, they were friends of the family. They all drove up in these really cool Porsches. And so that was like 1970, 1971 when
Wow.
I first, they caught my eye. Let's
Yeah.
say.
And when did you decide that you wanted a 911?
I think I decided I wanted a 911 around 2000.
And you looked for a long time.
I looked for a while in the beginning.
Yeah.
I guess my situation I was in, working and kids and all that kind of stuff. At one time we had 6 cars.
Yeah.
I had 4 boys, my wife, and my car, so we had 6 cars. There wasn't money or room for a 911. I kind of got the bug again. I started looking. I drove a lot of cars. A lot of them were not good cars.
Yeah, you drove everything from 70s cars, you drove SCs,
Yeah.
you drove turbos that you guys may have seen in one of my other videos that my dad
Right.
was actually looking at buying as well, and he really liked that one, I remember.
Yeah.
You drove other 964s.
Right. I drove some like 2005s, 2008s,
Yeah, some water-cooled stuff.
some 2002s. And they were really nice, but it really wasn't what I was looking for. I really always liked the early air-cooled 911s. I drove a 79 that was really nice. I came real close to buying that one. I came real close to buying an 84 Targa. That was really nice. I drove a 964 in the valley. Also, where I get my BMW fixed, they had a 964 there that I drove. And I was like, wow, this is what I like, this is what I want.
Yeah, I think 964s in general are perfect for you.
Yeah.
You get old classic looks, you get, 250 horsepower.
Yeah.
You get safety with airbags. You have the G50 transmission, which is
Has ABS brakes.
It has ABS brakes.
It has a real good suspension.
Yeah, the AC works better than mine, and better. Each year it gets better. It's still never good.
Right.
So I think it's a really great balance of modern and classic. And I think for someone like you, for an older guy, let's say, who wants classic looks, classic feel, but doesn't want to be jumping around and, doesn't want to find where the gears are and just wants the gears to always go in, I think it's a perfect balance. Now, don't get me wrong, you don't have to be an old guy to like 964s. 964s are great for everybody, but I think knowing my dad, this is what I always told him was get a 964.
Right. I mean, they ride really nice. They're fast, certainly as fast as I want. I drove some water-cooled turbos, some air-cooled turbos, and those are fast.
Yeah.
This is plenty fast for me.
Yeah.
What is it, like 0 to 60 in 5.5 seconds if you want to go that fast?
Yeah.
It's got a lot of torque.
Has a lot of torque.
I mean, when you step on it, it goes. It's got a 3.6 liter engine. After a while, I decided that it needed some new spark plugs and spark plug wires, a valve adjustment, and that kind of stuff. What a difference. What a difference in the way the engine runs, performance-wise and sound-wise. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it just shows that if you take care of these cars, they last forever, they're bulletproof,
Right.
and they'll go for hundreds of thousands of miles. So let's hear the story. How did you find this car?
Okay, I found this car. I took my BMW in for service down at Doug Hayden Motors in Anaheim. It was sitting there. It was sitting there with a black turbo. And I said to Doug, whose car is that? And he said, oh, it's a guy that he's having some problems. He's kind of losing his eyesight. It's not running. He brought it into us. We're going to get it running, and then I think he's going to put it for sale. I'll let you know. Well, the guy did want to sell it. And that was in October of 2020. I did talk to him. He told me it wasn't running. Doug was working on it, and he was going to get it running. He would sell it to me.
And I think what's important about your experience that a lot of people say is buy the best car you can and buy the buyer. Don't buy the car. This guy was so nice, so easy to work with. He gave you so much extra stuff. He didn't bullshit around with you about the price,
No.
He gave you a price. You guys came up with it in 2 minutes.
It was sold.
And it was sold. You've had such a great experience because of that. You didn't have to suffer through, some of the other people that you had dealt with. Go back and forth. If they want to sell it, they don't want to sell it. They do. They want more. Oh, I just learned I can get more. And that's such a bad experience. It ruins the whole experience of buying these classic cars.
Yeah, in this case, I met this man. He was actually retiring and moving to Tennessee.
of Tennessee, let's talk about where this car has been. It's always been in hot, dry areas.
It has. It has.
So it's been in California and it's been in Arizona, right?
Yeah, it was on. I think it was in Bullhead City, Arizona, which is probably one of the hottest,
driest places. Yeah.
in the U.S.
Perfect for no rust on the 911.
Right.
My car is also California the whole way.
Right. I talked to this guy for several months while the car was getting fixed. I couldn't even drive it. I really didn't give him an offer. I had an idea of what I wanted to pay for the car.
Yeah.
And he didn't know what the car was worth.
Mm-hmm.
He knew what he had into it. He knew he had just done a lot of work to get it fixed.
It just paid almost $15,000.
Yeah, $15,000 in repair work. He basically wanted to get that back plus what he paid for it. We met for lunch, and within a minute, it was a done deal.
Love that.
Yeah, we're still good friends. He moved to Tennessee. I talked to him just last week. He asked me how the car's doing. Are you enjoying it? When he comes back to California, he wants me to take him for a ride. A really nice guy.
So the main difference that I can feel with my 3.2 Carrera and this 964, I said the word would be refined. It feels refined. The biggest thing I feel is the G50. The G50 is very smooth. I haven't gone into one gear that it doesn't immediately go into. For those of you that have a 915, sometimes you getting into first gear or second gear can be a little difficult, even if you have a rebuilt 915 like I have. This is smooth like butter. The second thing that I definitely notice is the power steering. And I have to say, I think I prefer no power steering. You know, when my shoulders give out pretty soon, I'll probably prefer power steering more. In 3.2, you know, when you're going fast, it's really nice, it's really tight. On the 964, it's a little loose, which I don't prefer. I prefer a lack of power steering because it gives you that period feel too. This feels a little more refined. So again, you know, if you have bad shoulders or you don't want to deal with wrenching on the steering wheel, I think the 964 is definitely the car for you. Other than that, it feels very similar. The greenhouse is the same. You know, the area between the two seats is a little bit different. The clutch on this car, and I don't know if this is just your car or if this is 964s in general, but the clutch is much heavier than my 915. I don't know if driving this in traffic or driving this long distances may get pretty tired. It's similar to the turbo that we both drove.
Yeah.
That had a very stiff clutch. This feels very stiff, and I usually like a stiff clutch, but I think that I'm so used to my 3.2 that this feels hefty. It feels like my left leg would get tired fairly quickly. So for those of you that like that, that's great. And again, it may just be this cool. You know, I don't notice the huge power difference, which is interesting. So I want to look at the power to weight ratio, because I wonder if, although we added 30 horsepower, let's say, from a 3.2, I wonder if we also added weight. And I think that's the case. I think the G50 weighs more, if I remember correctly. I don't notice a huge power increase. A little bit. In higher revs, I notice maybe a little bit more. Other than that, it feels quintessential 911, classic 911, and it's just an absolute joy to drive.
I think one thing you mentioned, Kyle, when I got the car was the view between the A-pillars.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't see in modern cars, and it's such a big difference in classic cars. And all 911s are like this, you know. All 911s up to, I can't remember if the 993 still has the small A-pillars. I think they do. But you feel like it's open, you can see everything. It's so nice. There we go, we're at 6,000 and we're back second gear. I mean, this car goes. This car goes. It is a, what, 32-year-old car?
Yeah.
And it is fast. This is a sports car, for sure.
Yeah.
All in all, the 964 is just an absolutely amazing car. All around 911, from comfort to power to classic looks. Hope you guys enjoyed this review. Everybody knows the 964 is a great car. You don't need me to tell you. Make sure you like and subscribe and watch my other Porsche videos. I've got reviews on Targas. I've got reviews on 997s. I've got reviews on 930s. So make sure to go to my channel and check it out. Thanks so much.